Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honors to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakahak, Wadash, double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. This is your brother Ayash Gabar from the GMS Virginia camp, coming at you with another lesson that I pray that you find edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai. The book of 2 Esdras, chapter 15 and verse 8. I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. And Yahweh Bashem Yahushai isn't holding back anymore. You know, the Lord is about to do work in Babylon the Great against you Jakes, because when the doors of liberty was yet open to you, you despised it. You know, you didn't want to hear the truth, and you didn't want to take heed to the prophecies, which meant that you didn't want to hear Yahushua, because Yahushua is the spirit of prophecy. So if you don't want to hear us tell you the truth, which in turn meant that you didn't want to hear the words of Yahushua, which in turn meant that you didn't want to hear the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushua, you know, you're in for some shit, you know? You're in for some shit, you know, because here it is. These people are about to do a complete 180 on you Jakes. A lot of them don't give a shit about you. A lot of them would rather see you gone than to prosper. Salakia. A lot of them would rather see you going than prosper, because they have a deep hatred for you Jakes. You know, a lot of them look at you as though you should never have been in a position that you've been in, albeit politically, sports-wise, movies. You know, they don't think that you've ever should have even reached that point. And their hatred towards you has always been a perpetual hatred. And Yahweh Bashem Yahushai has been warning you of that. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai has told you who your enemy is. He has told you who he's using as his sword to whip your ass if you don't repent. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai has told you about the economical collapse, the MOTB, the race wars, the gender wars, the race wars, Salakia, the world wars, and nuclear destruction. So what you're hearing isn't new. You know, you have been told this for decades by our apostles, bishops, elders, on down. You have been told these things, as well as the men under them. The prophets of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai has been on the highways and byways telling you the words of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. And you know, you Jakes just take the word of the Lord and just throw it behind you. You know, you threw it behind you then, and you're throwing it behind you now. You don't want to hear shit. I was at the plantation, and you know, I was having a conversation, you know, a little light conversation with this Jake chick, you know, Southern Kingdom, you know, and she got demons on her, you know what I'm saying? She got the nose ring, and she always has the color looking hair and shit like that. But, you know, from time to time, I like to get a feel for what the mindset of the people are. So, you know, I'm talking to her, and I says, did you hear about what was happening in DC? And she was like, yeah, I heard about that, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, it's going to get worse. It's going to come here eventually. And she was like, oh, I hope not. What the fuck you mean you hope not? It is. Because the agenda that's set for you by this devil is, to put you back into servitude. His entire agenda is to bring back the world that he once knew, that made his people great, and so, I continue, to have a conversation with her. So she brought up UFOs, what I'm saying? And what she said was, now they talking about UFOs and, aliens and stuff like that. So I told her, I asked her, I said, do you believe in UFOs and aliens and stuff like that? She was like, yeah. And I looked at her and I said, so what if they look like you? And she gave me this deer in headlight look like, no. So I was like, all right. Well, the point of why I'm bringing this out was a Jake walked up, nigga with, this nigga had dreads that were weave. In other words, he didn't have his natural hair as dreads. He had weaves sewn into his real hair to give the illusion of dreads, so he had it in a fucking bonnet, like in a bun on top. So he walks up and starts hearing the conversation. So I looked at him and I said, no. She told him, we're talking about politics. That nigga said, fuck politics. If it ain't about money, I don't want to hear shit. Politics is bullshit, and he's right. But he didn't even give it a chance to segue into something deeper. He just nullified the entire conversation and turned and walked away. And that's Jake. That's Jake. Jake don't want to hear shit regardless to if he agrees with it or not. If he doesn't agree with it, Jake is just walking away. Even if he agrees with it and if it isn't on line with what you're saying and what his beliefs are, Jake is still walking away. And the moment you say something that Jake don't like, Jake is walking away. So the mindset of Jake is just gone. They don't want to hear nothing, which is why, Yahweh Shem Yahushua is done with these people. He's done with them. These Jakes are doing some wicked shit. Adultery and all types of fornication, the Moism and, worshiping other gods and all types of shit, and not even giving one thought to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. But I'm going to finish out the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 15 and verse 8. Behold, the wicked and innocent, Salah, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. And we're complaining about this place. We're complaining about how wicked Jake has become. We're complaining about the wicked. We're complaining about every aspect of this thing. We're complaining about the food, the water, the earth, the animals. We're complaining about everything because Yahweh Shem Yahushua has given the earth into the hands of the wicked. And this man doesn't know how to manage anything. This devil has turned paradise into profit. And if you're living in this wicked kingdom that's based on profit, and if you're not doing anything to help him gain more equity and more monetary gain in some shape, form, or fashion, he doesn't want anything to do with you. He doesn't want anything to do with you. Well, we're at the point where, he's got robots, to do the jobs of what most people do. And And if you have a job that's not controlled by some type of artificial intelligence, eventually it will be. Because he wants a world with less people, more robots, and more control. But he's not going to have it, you know what I'm saying? Because Yahweh Shem Yahushai has this devil in a trick bag, you know? And so now, you know, you got troops marching in. Well, you got law enforcement marching, and even troops, you know, marching through D.C. And don't forget about California, because they're still there. And you know, J or DJT is talking about expanding his reach. You know, the areas that are populated with you Jakes. New York, Atlanta, Philly, Chicago, the southern states, Oakland. Everywhere you Jakes reside in masses is where they're looking to get you at. And that's just law enforcement. And it's going to get so bad that even the people are going to feel emboldened to do whatever it is that they want to do, because they see what law enforcement is doing. You have a lot of people here that's going to try to take the law into their own hands. You know? But at some point, Jake is going to stand up. Jake is going to get roused up. Jake is going to do what Jake has the spirit on him to do. You know, he doesn't believe that all out calamity and all out evil is happening right before his eyes. You know, the book of Jeremiah, chapter 35 and verse 15. I have sent also unto you all my servants the prophets, rising up early and sending them, saying, yeah, I mean, the prophets of Yahweh Shem Yahushai is rising up early every day. You know, you got brothers making videos, you know, well, you got brothers of GMS making videos 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock in the morning. I myself is making this video at 11 o'clock in the morning. You know, we're rising up early, you know. And we're saying what Yahweh Shem Yahushai told us to say. Return ye now every man from his evil way, and amend your doings, and go not after other gods to serve them, and ye shall dwell in the land which I have given to you and to your fathers. You know, in other words, repent. You know, be that first fruit. Lord's will, if you are of the elect. But 2/3 of you Jakes ain't gonna get it. 2/3 of you Jake, it's just gone. Reading on, but ye have not inclined your ear, nor hearkened unto me. You're not inclining your ears, you know, to hear the words of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. In fact, a lot of you walk past every day. A lot of you would run across these epistles that you know the men of Yahweh Shem Yahushai has put out into the ether for you to hear, and a lot of you Jakes just gloss over it. Oh, I've heard that already. Yeah, you know, how many times are they going to say the same thing? Well, that's just the nature of Jake. You literally have to tell Jake not to do the same. Well, you literally have to tell Jake over and over again not to fucking do something, because Jake is just hard-headed. Don't stick your finger in the electric socket, Jake. Zzz. Told you not to stick your finger in the electric socket. A week later, Jake sticks his fucking finger in the electric socket again. Zzz. Don't do that, Jake. You're gonna get shot. You know, that's That's just how stiff-necked Jake is. And then when you warn him, Jake's like, man, don't tell me what the fuck to do. No, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what's going to happen if you don't listen. You're going to get shot. You know, and that's just the nature of Jake. You know, Jake always want to fucking be right. You know, you give him words of you give him wise words, you know, and they'll turn around and take your same words that you gave them and try to use it against you. You know, that's why the scriptures say, cast not your pearls unto swine, you know, because these devils are turning, or these wicked jakes are turning around and rend you with it. You know, they'll try to use your own words against you just so that they can appease their flesh. But that time is coming to an end. Yahweh Shem Yahushai is done holding his tongue. You know? Let me see. Jumping down into the book of Jeremiah, chapter 35 and verse 17. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh Shem Yahushai, power of hosts, the power of Israel, behold, I will bring upon Judah and upon all the inhabitants of Jerusalem all the evils that I have pronounced against them, because I have spoken unto them, but they have not heard. I have called unto them, but they have not answered. The prophets of Yahweh Shem Yahushai is calling you unto repentance, warning you of these up-and-coming calamities, and you just ain't listening. You ain't listening. Because a lot of you YNs are about to get fucked up. But then again, don't get it twisted. You know, Esau Edom is going to get his ass whooped too. You know? Because they're rousing up Jake. They're rousing up the tribe of Judah. They're rousing, and when they rouse up Judah, the other tribes are going to join suit. You know? And then it's going to be an all-out bloodbath in Babylon the Great. You know, it's about to get fucked up out here. But a lot of you Jakes are going to perish in the process. A lot of you Jakes are going to perish because of the famine. A lot of you Jakes are going to perish because of the sword. A lot of you Jakes are going to perish because of the pestilence. You know, there's going to be a great slaughter amongst you Jakes. You know, and you just don't see it yet. The book of Romans, chapter 11 and verse 8. According as it is written, the Most High has given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear, unto this day. So unto this day, even though the prophets of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai are out there on the highways and byways, they don't understand what's going on. They don't understand the words that are coming out of the prophets' mouths. They don't understand the time that they're in. You know, they're just living for the moment. You know, they're just living in vanity at the end of the day. Because if you're not doing the work or the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, all is vanity. It don't mean shit. Yeah, okay, the world might look at you as being a good fucking person. Oh yeah, you know, that's a good guy. Well, what standard are they basing that on? They're basing that on worldly standards. You know? They're basing that on, you know, how the world perceives a good person is. But when you read the scriptures tell you that there is none good but the Father. So this idea of good people is out the fucking window. These children are fucking monsters. These women are just fucking demons. They're not on your side. You know? unless, it's the elect lady. But even in that, she has to watch what she does and says to her man or to the men of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. So as a whole, the nation is fucked up. But 2/3 has got to go. Because, you could talk to them until you're blue in the face. But they ain't going to listen. And that's why Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is done talking. Because very soon he's about to pull the prophets off of the highways and byways, and it's all going to be about action. Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is about to return to his place until you acknowledge your offense. And a lot of you jakes are going to seek the Lord early, and you're not going to find him. So, hey, get ready for some evil times, to take place. Great death happening all around you. But just make sure that you maintain your faith. Just make sure that you pray, to stay in this thing. Pray always. Before you leave your house, pray. Pray as much as possible. And this is also including myself. Because Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is about to do some work. And you jakes are about to get it. There's going to be, hey, we understand what's going on. We are not in darkness. We do not sleep like the others sleep. Anyhow, the point has been made. And so with that, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honors to Yahweh, B'Hashem, Yahushai, B'Hashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.